has given me a privilege of looking at these subjects in a totally different light. And also, by then, we had gone through quite a bit of struggle, me and my wife, conceiving children, and we did not have children for the first 8 years of our marriage. So God, in His providence, has healed us by taking us through a process of dietary interventions, fixing our nutritional balance in our body, and that is when God opened my wife's womb, and since then He blessed us with 6 children. So we have given up on the medical establishment. Um, so we tried everything that there was with fertility treatments and all those things, and we gave up. And 3 years hence, God, faithful to His promise, He has blessed us. And looking at all this, brother, um, I have realized that there is a design, God's design, that is very robust, and God has not designed us like weak people, and so as to require intervention by pharmaceuticals at every step of the way. That is not what God's design is. Okay? As long as we provide proper nutrition to our bodies, and our bodies are designed to heal themselves, and that has been the focus of my practice. And the thing is, why we do this, and whenever I come across a person, when I deal with a patient, I look at it in a totally different way. It's a, how do we bring them to health, eh, in spite of our, see, most of the pharmaceuticals are designed to um, designed to be used to get through the crisis, and not to be used on a regular basis, on a maintenance basis. This maintenance medication has come only in the last 3 or 4 decades of our. So I think my passion is to just emphasize that God's design for our health, and bring relief to suffering populace. And also, the thing is, having been saved by the grace of God at an age of 16 years, and having understood the bondage of sin, and how we can be relieved, and we can be relieved by not any of our own merit, but what God has done in Jesus Christ, and what has been achieved on the cross for us, and how God sent His Son to shed His blood as a propitiation, that work of redemption has captivated my heart. And that, what, everything that we do, I think Bible says, do it for the glory of God. I think whenever we practice the profession that God gives us, I think we need to do it. I need to do it for the glory of God.
Yeah, amen.
That is,
So it looks like you're suggesting that any career or any work that you do, or any practice that you're involved in, do it as if you're doing it unto the Lord, as Paul says, and it looks like that has been your motivation in helping people to handle such crises that we're going through these days. So yeah, let's come back to fighting COVID, and how did you get this idea that D3 or vitamin D is the key for fighting out this not just this crisis, but most of the virus related crises that we go through on a regular basis or on a seasonal basis. What is the motivation that, or how did you come to that understanding?
okay. So as I said, God has led us through this discovery process, fixing the nutrition. And when my wife was pregnant with our fourth child, and she was having all kinds of difficulties with gestational diabetes, and she hardly had any energy at all to even move, and so much so that she felt like she was almost dying. And that is when we found out that her vitamin D levels were very low. And so we started, during that pregnancy, we did not know her vitamin D levels were low, but after the pregnancy, her vitamin D levels were low. So for the past 15 years, I have been conversant with the works of Dr. Hollick, and their vitamin D researchers, the great researchers. And I have always been convinced vitamin D is one of the crucial parts in our nutrition, and everybody in the world is deficient almost, in the modern lifestyle. it makes us prone to vitamin D
Mm.
deficiency. And even in a country like India, 90% are deficient, woefully deficient in this essential nutrient. So in my study, what I found was, vitamin D has every cell in the body has a vitamin D receptor. Okay,
Mhm.
and that receptor is expecting to be filled with a complement. And all our body, all our body, in our body, we have receptors for many things. You have, receptors for insulin, for instance. So there is a vitamin D receptor, and this is a nuclear receptor. And when it is not filled with with its complement, bad
Mhm.
things happen. Bad things happen. See, the thing is, there is we all know about this genetic influence. Okay, like
Mhm.
we are given this understanding of, when it is genetic, there is nothing we can do.
Right.
Okay, it is the genes are expressed at will, and they are on their own, and they are getting expressed once this genetic expression happens, and we are prone to this disease process for the rest of our lives. That is the understanding that is given to us.
Right.
But in the recent research, completely, it proves that there is not only genetic influence, there is epigenetic influence. Okay,
Mhm.
it's like if you compare these genes as horses. Okay, and this epigenome is like horse riders, which are controlling this genetic expression. Okay, and vitamin D is one such epigenetic influences. Okay,
Mm.
and if vitamin D is present, that vitamin D receptor, okay, directs which genes are expressed, and this genetic modulation happens. Okay,
Mm.
not only that, and if you look at all the immune cells, okay, the neutrophils, basophils, are the macrophages, all of them have this vitamin D receptor. And if that
Mhm.
vitamin D receptor is filled properly, and if proper vitamin D levels are achieved in a person, their immune system works properly.
Mm. Mm.
All this signaling happens. It is a beautiful choreography and orchestration of several processes working in conjunction to keep us healthy. And
Mm.
vitamin D
Mm.
plays an extremely important role. So that is how I knew vitamin D. And as soon as this virus is making its rounds, I knew that vitamin D has to play an important role in this in this illness.
Okay. So vitamin D, it looks like the the most important thing that you are suggesting during treating people or helping people in fighting COVID-19 also. So why do you think COVID-19 we can face or we can actually overcome this crisis with vitamin D3, or do you suggest anything else along with vitamin D3 to actually to actually fight this COVID-19 virus and be healthy at this point of time?
Okay. So, in any illness, okay, if we are trying to treat or if we are trying to get over any illness, we need to understand the disease progression and the pathophysiology, or how the disease starts and how it progresses and
Hmm.
how it is achieving its ill effects on our body. So, if we look at it in this COVID-19 illness, okay, the vitamin, see, the problem with COVID-19 is it is not the virus itself, it is the immune responses of the body that
Mm.
are that are making people vulnerable
Right.
to this disease. So it is, everybody suggested, all the experts suggested, we need to strengthen our immune system. Okay, and the problem is, how do we do that? Okay, how do we strengthen our immune system? Okay, so having a strong immune system, is it an automatic insurance against this disease? That is a very good question to answer, ask and answer. Okay, and now in this disease, the solution is the immune system,
Mm.
and the problem is also the immune system.
Mm.
Okay, and the differentiation lies between whether it is properly regulated or
Mm.
it is unregulated. Okay,
Mm.
if it is an unregulated immune system, it goes, there are several branches that it could take, and two branches that it could go in. So it always, if it is not regulated properly, it always goes in this inflammatory branch, and these inflammatory cytokines, okay, that are implicated in COVID-19 illness, that is where they are coming from. Okay,
Mm.
there is proper levels of vitamin D, that immune reaction shifts towards anti-inflammatory branch of the immune system, and that is when we're able to see this, as soon as we apply vitamin D. See, the thing is, when I started thinking about this, I did not know that it would work this well.
Okay.
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 And I knew that it would be a preventive to have, maintain good vitamin D levels, because research does point to it proved that in the previous SARS and MERS infections, if you have 60 to 100 nanograms per ml of vitamin D levels, that seemed to be protective. Okay. My goal was to achieve that in all our employees, because in a pharmacy we come across, about 100 plus employees, we come across all kinds of patients, and we were in the initial stages. There were no PPEs, not there is no understanding of PPEs, so there is no question that we will come into contact with COVID patients.
Mm, mm,
And my,
mm.
my goal was to protect them. So we started them on a 20,000 units daily. In about 8 weeks, we were able to bring their levels to about 80 nanograms per ml. And sure enough, that seemed to be protective.
So you seem to be suggesting that at least 80 nanograms is 80 nanograms of D, I mean vitamin D levels are protective enough. Or what do you see the maximum that we can go up to? 82?
Okay, so the maximum we can go up to, what we have to look at is is in different population groups. Let's say in the U.S., when lifeguards in the beach, okay, they spend a lot of time outdoors, okay,
Okay.
during summer. Okay, and also they don't, they're most of about 70% of skin is exposed. Okay, in them, we can see the levels reach about 150 to 160 nanograms per ml. Okay, so if you take a look at the typical report, according to Institute of Medicine, the normal range is 30 to 100 nanograms per ml. Okay, and if
Mm-hmm.
it goes beyond that, it is considered the right toxicity possible or toxic.
Okay.
Okay. But naturally, see, when people are spending outdoors, time outdoors, and 70% of the skin exposed for most of the time. And by midsummer, if their levels are reaching 150 to 160 nanograms per ml, and they are not suffering any toxicity, I think we need to look at those levels again, because in the when we see the consequences on the society of this COVID illness, not only COVID, but there are several viral illnesses that have been going around in India. Whenever this rainy season comes, okay, the dengue or chikungunya, or name anything, just a flu, um, that has been causing a lot of trouble. Okay,
Right.
so in the maintaining proper vitamin D levels is the key
Mm.
to combat any viral illness. There is no question
Mm.
about that.
Mm. Yeah, just to give a little bit of my own experience. Me and my wife, we went through this. We went through severe body pains, severe inflammation, severe cold and cough and throat ache, etc., etc. Almost every symptom that the WHO is suggesting as if it is COVID-19. Even before we got it tested positive, we actually didn't go for a test because at those days, initial days were really difficult in India to go for a test. And once we go for a test, it was very scary in the hospitals, and it was all the government hospitals were full of COVID patients, and even if you were not positive, you would definitely get positive when you get there. So that was the situation at that time. We went through actually a very mental trauma, and also physically we were tired, physically we were depressed, and we were very lonely, and we felt as if everybody abandoned us and stuff like that. But it was a ray of hope when we heard that D3 can be a very hopeful, and we when we take it, there is the possibility of gaining your strength back is more. We started, I mean, my wife started using it by the time I came out of it, and then my wife started using it, and we have started suggesting the same to hundreds of people. We've actually we've done a program on Rakshana television with four of the COVID survivors who went through it, and their families who went through it, and most of them got healed maybe in say 5 to 7 days by just taking 60,000 international units of D3. for 5 days, like once in the morning and once in the evening. So there is this use case scenario in our hands, but but you might have your experience might be different, and you might have treated a lot more people, suggested a lot more people, and definitely God used this particular suggestion, and God is healing people using D3. Can you give us a couple of references or a couple of examples how people, especially people who are above the age of say 50, 55, where the vulnerability is more, and the recovery was faster? That will give a lot of hope to people as well.
Okay. So it basically depends upon the level of immune dysfunction that is there in a person. Okay. And usually here in our in the US, what we have done is I have come up with this dose of, in all our employees, we tried this dose of 20,000 units over about 6 to 8 weeks, and that roughly comes to about 10 lakh units over that
Mm-hmm.
time. So by then we started seeing a lot of COVID cases in by March 1st or second week, and I started thinking, if this seemed to be protective, okay, why don't we? Because a COVID patient does not have a 6 to 8 weeks time, okay? So
Mm-hmm.
they at most have 5 days. So what I did was I compressed that 10 lakh units into 5 days. So 2 lakh units daily for 5 days. In almost 95% of the patients, they have recovered within a day or two of administering that to 2 lakh units in 4 divided doses. Okay, that was a revelation to me, because these people were almost hopeless, and the hospitals were completely, totally filled here also, and people were going onto ventilators, and they're going off the vent and going into the body bags. That was the scenario, and people wanted. See, the thing is, the ideal way to treat them was in an ambulatory setting, and we did that, and across about 10 doctors' offices, we had no fatalities at all.
Mm-hmm.
Even when people were dying by the dozens, these people who have been tried this protocol of 200,000 units, that is 2 lakh units, that is 50,000 units 4 times a day for 5 days, almost 95% of the people, they have completely come out of it. And some people in whom the immune dysfunction is a lot higher, we had to continue the dose to about 2 weeks or even up to 3 weeks, and not at the same dose, but at a lower doses. So this was a learning process. So and coming to India, and
Mm-hmm.
the problem with this disease is the disease presentation is different across different societies. That has been
Okay.
the biggest challenge. Okay, in India, it is the disease presentation has been very different across population groups. In the initial stages, during the lockdown period, okay, when migrant workers and people
Mm-hmm.
who were outside, and they had a very easy time dealing with COVID infections, I must say, because during that time, the COVID the death rate was very low in India during the lockdown period. Okay.
Right.
Even though there were a lot of people outside getting exposed, and they were trying to go to their homes, and they were trying to make a living. During that time, the death rate was about 2 to 3 per million people. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
when the see that is one population group, because, and even here, to compare that to here, the homeless population in San Francisco and various other places, they suffered a lot less severity from this disease, because they always spend time outside. I think that has to do with their vitamin D status. Okay, and also people in the north have suffered a lot more than people in the south. So considering all this, and you asked me to give two examples. Okay, one of the examples, and also there is this stereotype of people about 55 years or higher are more vulnerable. You know what? Even the little children are getting affected a lot. And one such case is one of my friends in Maharashtra, Nasik. He called me one day, and he said, okay, he has a 13-year-old, and his saturation was going down to about
Mm-hmm.
80 or 75, and without any symptoms, without any signs. I said, that's without signs, and he doesn't have any fever, he doesn't have any cough. Why would it be? I think your pulse oximeter may be broken. and he's using that pulse oximeter to check his own, and it is working 98, 99. But on the child that night, that evening, it went to 60, and he started vomiting. Okay.
Oh my God. Mm.
And that is when I said, you know what, just give one capsule of 60,000 units. Okay. Within half an hour, his saturations came from 60 to 95. Okay. And
Mm.
that is, see, the thing is, it is extremely sinister. And also, if we are not able, if we don't, this boy did not have any symptoms of shortness of breath. And
Mm.
until he started vomiting, we did not realize that it was a COVID. And
Mm.
by applying proper doses of vitamin D, and he came out of it in 3 days. And in 3 days, his saturations are 98, 99 constant, and his
Mm.
pulse rate has calmed down quite a bit.
Mm. Mm.
Another person is this 29-year-old young man, and he went through this COVID treatment. He took all the all these about 15, 20 drugs that are being written, and he finished all that prescription. And one day he just messaged me saying, "Brother, I am in a serious condition." I just called him right away, and he was just hyperventilating. And I asked him to check his pulse oximeter readings, and oxygen level was dropping, and just in front of during in the duration of the call, his oxygen level went from 91 to 87, and his pulse was going up to 148, resting pulse.
Mm. Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And that is and we started aggressively applying vitamin D, and within about half an hour to 40 minutes, his saturations came up to 94, 95, and his pulse rate went down to about 100, 110. Okay. So vitamin D, just it's not an option at this point. It is a necessity
Mm.
in this disease. We need to correct this vitamin D deficiency as aggressively as possible. And also, we've been very aggressive with this 29-year-old. And within 5 days, he completely recovered. And it just broke my heart to see him and his young wife of 1 year,
Mm.
and they married for 1 year. And I was just almost crying looking at them, and the crisis that he's been in. And
Mhm.
thank God, praise be to God, and he recovered completely within 5 days.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. So the story seems to be very similar with what we have experienced based on your suggestion, and you're actually explaining out of the first-hand information as well. So vitamin D deficiency seems to be like you're suggesting that we have to aggressively address it. But there is also an understanding among the people that the toxicity might increase if the vitamin deficiency is addressed aggressively, and we start taking more vitamin D3 pills, and if the vitamin levels increase too high, then it can turn into toxicity. So if so, what do you say for that? Because we haven't seen we haven't seen any medical journals coming out and saying that yes, vitamin D3 levels going up to 110, 120, or 115 is quite natural. It is okay. So what if people think like that and start avoiding suggestions that you're giving?
Yeah. Okay. So vitamin D toxicity has been, ever since I started suggesting these doses, and most of the clinicians, almost 99% of the doctors, only a few said, "What toxicity? There is no toxicity." But almost all of them said, "Yes," refer to vitamin D toxicity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, to these clinicians, my question was, okay, initially in March and April timeframe, "Doctor, you've been practicing for 30, 40 years. Okay. How many vitamin D toxic cases you've seen?" He
Mm.
said, all of them said none. Okay. Okay, first of all, explain to me what the vitamin D toxicity symptoms are. Okay. And they did not have an idea. Okay. And when we don't have an idea, what we do is we Google. Okay. So
Mm.
when you Google, okay, the vitamin D toxicity, a scary picture emerges.
Right.
And you have kidney dysfunction and heart dysfunction, and
Mm.
some people are suggesting even your bones are going to be so brittle, and they will turn into powder, they say. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these doctors that I've seen. Okay. So the problem is they are saying all this in an era where 90% of the people are vitamin D deficient.
Mm.
Okay. And all these clinicians, they know the ill effects of vitamin D deficiency. Okay? Yet they talk about vitamin D toxicity.
Mm.
Okay. So now take a look at other pharmaceutical agents. Let's say you take a blood pressure medication. Okay.
Mm.
You take 3 times the dose, and that becomes toxic right away.
Okay.
You will see the ill effects absolutely very quickly. And some of these drugs, with a very narrow therapeutic index, they can kill people if you take 2 or 3 times the dose very easily. Okay? But vitamin D toxicity is not defined in single doses. Okay, let's say if you take 10 lakh units of vitamin D right away, it is not going to be toxic at all. Okay, but vitamin D toxicity refers to the level that it reaches in the blood. Okay, and if you maintain that level an extended period of time, let's say it's a toxic level is 100, according to Institute of Medicine. Okay, so if you maintain 100 or above for a long period of time, okay, and it can become toxic in some cases. Okay,
Mm.
and also vitamin D toxicity doesn't happen out of the blue, or it doesn't strike you, just suddenly. Okay, there are signs and symptoms. Okay, like your calcium level goes up. That is the first
Mm.
sign. Okay. In an era of we are able to
Mm.
get tests in a matter of hours. Okay, and we can measure vitamin D levels very easily.
Mm.
And not only vitamin D levels, we can measure the kidney function, and we can measure the calcium levels very easily. Okay, so in that sense, just fearing vitamin D toxicity, okay, which may happen 6 months or 1 year, 2 years down the
Mm.
line, you know,
Mm.
facing with the possibility of losing a life in 2 days or 3 days or 7 days, uh, we need to, I think, people need to just understand that. And also, there are
Right.
papers that came out very recently. Okay, in the 2015, Mayo Clinic published a paper, taking all this data over all these years, and they concluded vitamin D is not as toxic as we
Mm.
once thought. Okay.
Mm.
Also, there is another aspect to this. Vitamin D is available in two forms here in the US.
Mm.
Okay. It is vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin D2 is not the natural vitamin D that our body produces. Okay.
Okay.
Vitamin D2 is ergocalciferol. It is from plant sources, and also it is synthetic as well. Okay.
Mm.
Vitamin D2 is not converted properly by our livers. Okay. So vitamin D2, if you take it in high doses, it can be toxic within a matter of a few weeks.
Mm. Mm.
Okay, most of these vitamin D toxicity studies, they conflate these two issues.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so vitamin D3, if you take, and these researchers concluded that if you take up to 50 to 1 lakh units, 50,000 to 1 lakh units daily for months to years, that is when the toxicity may be possible. And we
Okay.
are not suggesting those doses at all. We are
Right.
saying, let's take in high doses for a period of 7 days to 10 days,
Mm.
and let's get through this crisis. Let's live
Mm.
so that we can even address vitamin D toxicity if it does happen.
Right. So you're facing it more on a rescue basis rather than a long term medication kind of basis. However, you're calling it a rescue. At the same time, you're calling it that it is not as toxic as people have thought, as clinicians have thought. We are suggesting it for only 5 to 7 days of say 2 lakh units or 200,000 units per day, and the possibility of regaining your strength, possibility of defeating COVID-19 is more in this case. That is what you are suggesting, right?
Absolutely. And it is very clearly seen because the first time you apply, you take vitamin D, its effects on the lungs is very clearly seen. It
Mm.
protects the lungs from certain destruction. Okay.
Mm.
And this virus and the subsequent immune reactions, and they have destroyed the lungs within a matter of hours.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
But as soon as we give vitamin D, and its protective effect can be very easily seen, and their saturations coming from almost mid 80s or even 70s to almost 90-95 within a matter of within a matter of hours. Okay? And also the inflammatory markers drop, they drop like a rock. In one patient here, what we have seen is this. Okay, this patient is standing outside the pharmacy because he's COVID. He didn't come into the pharmacy, so I
Mm.
went out to him, and he was having respiratory distress, and I handed the vitamin D to him. Okay, and so he went and started taking it, and within a day he called me back and said, I feel a lot better. And his
Mm.
doctor called me and said his D dimer came from almost 8,000
Mm.
to less than 500 within a
Mm.
matter of 2 days. That
Mm.
doesn't happen with any drug.
Right, right, right. And these days we are using, at least in India, people are suggesting that they take 4 pills or 8 pills a day of the Fabiflu kind of tablets, which are helping people to come out of uh, COVID-19. But a lot of my friends, at least 7 or 8 of them, they did not use those many medications or those many tablets per day, but they just stuck to vitamin D3. And do you call that a risk, or you just need to embrace the new medication also?
So okay, so Fabiflu. Okay, so let's think about what it is and how it is working. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
any so Fabiflu is a favipiravir. It's an antiviral drug, okay? And it's supposed to reduce the viral load. Uh, so- and if we look at it, and most of these people who ended up in trouble, who ended up on ventilators, they have been on Fabiflu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and also there is a window. I think with antivirals there is a window of opportunity where we can use them and be benefited by it. Okay, and that window is in the first 10 days or in the first 5 days of the infection, where the patient may not be symptomatic.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
By the time symptoms happen, see, the thing is, I'd like to characterize this disease or divide this disease into three stages. The first
Okay.
stage is the first 10 days. That is the first stage where people are mostly asymptomatic, or even the symptoms that they have can be treated by, mind you, it is only the symptoms that we are treating. Okay,
Mm.
symptoms treated by like antipyretics, like fever reducers or cough reducers. They can be
Mm.
treated, and people, they think that they have gotten over COVID infection by reducing fever or reducing cough, they are mistaken. The second stage can be can be coming. Okay, and in people with immune dysfunction, second stage is certain to come. That is about 11th day to the 14th or 15th day. Okay, that is when the immune system gets activated and it starts generating this inflammatory cytokines. IL-6 is one of the cytokines which is measured in this COVID-19 illness, and IL-6 is like pouring acid into the lungs. Okay.
Mm.
While dealing with this virus, see, by then, the research is very clear. Even here in the hospitals, New York University, the Langone Medical Center, the research is clear that after 10th or 11th day, the viral loads have come down considerably in these people. Okay,
Mm.
and the problem is, when we apply antiviral drugs during that time, I think that is going to put a lot of stress on the patient, on the patient's livers. Okay, remdesivir is hepatotoxic. There is no question about that. And if we think that body is already dealing with this virus by then, and some of these people may already be negative for the
Mm.
virus by then. Okay?
Mm.
If we think that remdesivir is going to help, I think we need to, all the clinicians need to think very hard in what kind of medication that we are using and when we are using it. And also the second
Mm.
medication that is the third medication that is being used very extensively is this IL-6 receptor blocker, the Actemra or tocilizumab. Okay, and also this tocilizumab is being used in people even who don't even need that, and by the time their lungs are destroyed and their IL-6 is coming down and the viral counts are completely are not there, and they may even have antibodies of their own, and in them we are applying all these medications. I think we need to take a hard look at that.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
before we go for a 2 minute break, I would like to ask you one last question, and then open the lines after the break for questions from the audience. So with the vitamin D3, what else do you suggest as a preventive supplements for us to make our immunity or immune system stronger? Number one. Number two, if it is affected, if it is already, if there is a patient right now listening to this program, and his his immunity levels, he is still fighting, and what suggestions do you give along with T3 to that person?
Okay. So t- uh, along with D3, nebulizations with hydrogen peroxide solution, okay, with 0.3% hydrogen peroxide solution have been proven to be very successful in a lot of COVID patients. Okay, so that is one thing that people can do, get immediate relief, and also bring their saturations up, and also the exercises, breathing exercises, to keep the lung tissue viable and functional, like blowing balloons is one of them.
Mm,
It's
mm,
definitely that must be done in every COVID patient. That has
mm,
to be. Okay?
mm,
And also there is something called a Buteyko breathing technique. Okay,
mm,
and that breathing technique has to be applied by everyone,
mm,
and that can keep the saturations high. And also taking a B complex vitamin
mm,
is very important. Okay?
mm,
And B complex vitamin twice a day is very important. And also vitamin C tablet. Okay, because when people are experiencing this cytokine storm and the saturations are going down, there is a lot of oxidative stress on the lungs. So
mm,
vitamin C is an antioxidant. What I suggest is, in people where cytokine storm is very very high, okay, I think we need to change the vitamin D frequency to every hour. And every hour, what we are doing is we are giving every hour one vitamin D plus two vitamin C and with nebulization. Okay,
mm,
and we've been able to maintain the saturations 90 plus with these interventions.
mm, mm. And what about the prevention? What about making your immune system stronger if you're not, already COVID affected?
Yes, and also the same thing. B complex is very important, and also at, bringing up the vitamin D levels aggressively, very quickly in a matter of 5 to 10 days is important as well. Okay, and also
Mm,
monitoring. Okay, as we are monitoring, and even somebody is not COVID affected, and they should monitor their pulse levels and in the pulse oximeter there are two numbers. The first number is
right.
the SpO2, the oxygen saturation, and everybody is concerned about that, but they need to pay attention to the pulse as well. Okay, and one thing that this virus does, among many things, it drives up. There is something called a renin-angiotensin system, and while it is upregulating this renin, okay, the heart rate goes up through the roof.
Mm,
Okay?
mm,
And that's what I have seen in 20-year-olds, the heart rates of about 140 resting heart rates, 150 resting heart rates. And when the heart rate is slowly going up, creeping up from 70 to 80 to 90 to 100, and we need to assume that there is something going on. Okay, even if they're negative, okay, there is
mm.
definitely something going on, and we need to get ahead of this, and with proper application of vitamin D and various other, these are supportive supplements. Vitamin C and others are supportive supplements, but vitamin D is the biggest player in this.
Right, right. Those are the suggestions that Dr. Bhanu is trying to help us fight with COVID-19. And when we come back from a 2 minute break, I would like you to call on the numbers that you see on the television screen or on your YouTube. Just call us and let us know your questions, and Dr. Bhanu will try to answer those questions. And also, we will talk about the vaccines that are on the way, and that get that and those a lot of people are actually hopeful about those vaccines also. But let's see what Dr. Bhanu had to say about those vaccines. So let's take a couple of minutes of break, and we'll come back.
నీ చరణములే నమ్మితి నమ్మితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి. చరణములే నమ్మితి నమ్మితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి. నీ చరణములే నమ్మితి నమ్మితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి. దిక్కిక నీవే చక్కగరావే, దిక్కిక నీవే చక్కగరావే, మిక్కిలి మ్రోకుదు మ్రోకుదు మ్రోకుదు, మిక్కిలి మ్రోకుదు మ్రోకుదు మ్రోకుదు, నీ చరణములే నమ్మితి నమ్మితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి. భావము మార్చి నా వెంట నీచి, భావము మార్చి నా వెంట నీచి, దేవర బ్రోవవే బ్రోవవే బ్రోవవే, దేవర బ్రోవవే బ్రోవవే బ్రోవవే, నీ చరణములే నమ్మితి నమ్మితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి. యేసుని తోడ ఎవరు సాటి, యేసుని తోడ ఎవరు సాటి, దోషము బాపును బాపును బాపును, దోషము బాపును బాపును బాపును, నీ చరణములే నమ్మితి నమ్మితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి, నీ పాదములే పట్టితి. నీ
welcome back to this very special program on fighting COVID and the awareness among all of us to be able to stand against this pandemic and win over it. And a very special guest from United States, all the way from United States, is with us this evening. And Dr. Bhanu Garu is with us, and he's giving his suggestions, and he's sharing his experiences out of the medication that he used for various patients that they approached him. So please, feel free to call and ask your questions. And meanwhile, I'll try and ask a couple of questions on behalf of you. So, Dr. Bhanu Garu, while we are addressing the physical ailment of a person, we also need to be mindful of the emotional trauma that a person goes through. When we were initially, when we were down with these symptoms, and everybody, kind of not very apprehensive about even approaching us, even talking to us, even, taking our calls, and even when people call us up, we were not very willing to take up calls and answer. So we go through a lot of psychological and emotional trauma. What is the suggestion that you give, or is there anything that we can do? And is there any hope that we can fill in people? And also when it comes to medication, because of this very uncertain and unknown kind of virus, and we are treating with this unknown kind of virus, a lot of tablets, a lot of medicines are given, a handful of medicines actually, and just pouring all of them into your mouth just to make sure that you live for the next one day. People are willing to do anything. So such a hopelessness situation that we see in the world today. What is your take on that, and how would you suggest, and what do you suggest people to stick to and be brave in fighting this out?
Okay, so this hopelessness and the emotional trauma that comes from dealing with the unknown. This unknown is such a rampant, in a rampant way. It is causing destruction all around us. And people who are here today, and 5 days later, they are no more. And they're dying on oxygen, gasping for air, gasping for breath. And that causes a lot of the anxiety among healthy people as well. Okay? And also some people, we have heard testimonies of people dying of heart attacks while suffering from this emotional trauma. Okay?
Yeah.
What we need is a real solution. People need to have a confidence in something. Okay, if really people are confident about all the drugs that they're taking, and even the doctors are not very confident about the drugs that they're giving. Okay, and the hospitals are not confident about the treatment that they're applying. So this, all in all, we have to have a real solution. Okay? The real solution is, and we have to trust that real solution instead of just trying to run in several different directions. Once the COVID hits, the time frame is very limited. Okay, we don't have much time to try this, that, and the other things. This is not like any chronic disease. This is a very acute illness, and which does its damage in a matter of days. The first thing that we need to do, people need to remember, is we need to protect the lungs. Okay, we need to understand what protect the lungs during this illness. So we definitely know by now, and what that agent is. Okay, so instead of thinking about what might happen 2 years, 3 years down the line with this so-called toxicity, okay, people need to be trusting in the solution that God has provided us at this point.
You mean D3? You mean vitamin D3?
Yes, vitamin D3. Okay. Once people know that there is a solution and they can be relieved of that anxiety, there is this emotional trauma. We need to trust God first of all. Okay. And also as believers, really, our trust is not in this world. And the Bible says we do not have a city that is lasting in this world. And whether we are here or there, we are in God's hands. That is the solution for all kinds of emotional trauma. But having said that, And did God leave us without a hope in this world? No, He did not. And He's a kind God. He's a good God. His design is beautiful. His design is robust. We have to fall back on His design. Okay. And once we have that trust in Him, I think that is the cure for all anxieties and all the fears and all the emotional trauma. Okay. And at a macro level, but at a micro level, I think we need to trust the solution that God has provided us at this time.
Okay, so just to repeat what you just said, we are basically taking this zinc, and this zinc is something that that's easily available in the market, and this is D3 that we are using. This is also very easily available in the market. This is vitamin D3, K2, and vitamin B12. It is a package of vitamin D3 and K12. K2 and B12 put together. So these are available, very much available in the market. And I don't think we need any prescription from a doctor to get these supplements. And apart from these supplements that we can buy from the market, what are the natural things that we can do in order to get the same intake or same acquiring of D3 naturally, or acquiring of the zinc naturally?
Okay, so usually the seeds of the pumpkin seeds have a lot of zinc in them. Okay? Also, shellfish. If you're non-vegetarian, shellfish have a lot of zinc in them. Animal products have a lot of zinc in them. Okay, and also the vitamin D3, D3. Everybody is asking, is there a natural way of getting vitamin D3 from sun? Okay. I just want to mention a few things here. Okay, in the past 3 or 4 or 5 decades, our diets have changed considerably. Our agricultural practices have changed considerably. Okay? And in our agriculture, we use a lot of pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides. Okay, and these are organophosphates and organophosphonates. Okay, and for vitamin D to be manufactured in our skin by exposing ourselves to the sun, the ultraviolet B rays, and there are several things that need to happen. Okay, this cholesterol has to be transported to the skin first of all. Okay, but these organophosphates and organophosphonates, they mess up these cholesterol transportation mechanisms. They completely deactivate the sulfation pathways, so the cholesterol is not transported to the skin. And in such a person, okay, even if we go into the sun, we get sunburn, not vitamin D. So there are lots of barriers for us to get some of these nutrients naturally. And also, most of these organophosphates and organophosphonates, they are powerful chelators. So even if we are taking these minerals like zinc and magnesium and all these copper and all these things in our diet, and if our diet has these organophosphates and phosphonates, what happens is they bind to it. They bind to these minerals and they make them unavailable for our body to absorb. So there are so many aspects of this. It's not like taking like turning a switch on. We cannot fix our nutrition like that. We need to understand what we are putting in our mouth, and we need to understand where our food is coming from. So there is so much in this modern era to be able to maintain good health via nutrition. So yes, this discussion has to continue even beyond COVID. I think we need to become robust as people, as God intended us to be. For that, I think that knowledge is available. I think we need to make it very clear and plain to people. I think we will do that in the coming days.
So do you also suggest that there is any good or anything? Is it possible for us to gain enough D3, enough D vitamin by sitting under the sun, or by just you already suggested that people who are working as lifeguards, they have 115 as their D3 levels. So in that case, do you suggest people also to go out and stay under the sun for some time a day, maybe half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour? I don't know what it is, but based on your suggestion, what do you suggest to be exposed, our bodies to be exposed to the sun?
Absolutely, positively. I think, sitting in sun, not only for D3, but there are so many other benefits that we can gain from sitting in sun. Okay.
Mm.
I think the sun that we at ultraviolet B rays that I'm talking about, they are present in sunlight from 11 a.m. from 11 to
Mm.
10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Mm.
during intense sun. It's not like morning sun or evening sun. UVB
Okay.
rays
Okay.
are not present in those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have been hearing that only morning from 6 to 8 a.m. If you said that is enough, I mean that's the time when you should go out and try to get D3. Maybe in the evening 6 o'clock, but after before 6 o'clock it is very dangerous. Ultraviolet rays will be there. So there are stuff like that also. So what do you suggest? Yeah.
So there are a lot of conflicting information. See, thing is ultraviolet. See, thing is, yeah, there is ultraviolet A rays which can be harmful, but during this time about 10, 11 to 3 p.m. During that time, ultraviolet B rays are prominent in the solar spectrum.
Mm.
So during that time, if people can expose their skin to about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, they can definitely gain some benefit from it.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So yeah, that's a new information. In fact, I think most of our listeners, most of our viewers are also getting benefit out of it, because we have been thinking that it is only in the morning or in the evening, but not during the day. During the day, exposing yourselves to sun might be dangerous sometimes and stuff like that. So what do you suggest when you go and sit out? Under the sun, what are the precautions that you would like to say? For example, people go out into the beach and they just try to expose themselves to their bodies to sun to get tanned. That's one of those trendy things that are happening. But in India, everybody is tan, so we
It's
hardly go out. So what are the benefits, and how do we need to? What are the cautions that we need to understand before we go and start doing it?
the caution I would have is proper hydration. Okay, if
Mm.
you're not properly hydrated, that sitting in sun for any length of time can be harmful. Okay,
Mm.
the second thing is you need to increase your fats in your diet. Okay, I think we have become a fat avoidance culture, and we have become a sun avoidance culture. And in the Bible, God says, "I will satisfy you with the fat of the land." I don't think He meant it metaphorically. I think
Mm.
it's very literal. Okay, the fats are, if you look at the cell structure itself, it is the cell wall, is a cell membrane is phospholipid bilayer. Okay, without good fats, it is impossible to maintain the cellular integrity. So, and
Mm.
also the vascular integrity cannot be maintained without proper fats. What are proper fats? Okay, we have been told that it is the plant oils and plant, like sunflower oil or soybean oil or vegetable oils. All these things are being promoted as healthy, healthful things. No such thing. There is no way they are helpful. Okay? They
Mm.
are very inflammatory, and also the good oils. The latest research and not suggests, it just demands that we go back to our traditional ghee, and ghee is a
Mm.
very very healthy fat.
Mm.
And also we cannot throw away the yolks of the yellow. And
Mm.
as long as we maintain this, and if we go into the sun, we will be protected. The skin will be protected, and we will get
Mm.
enough vitamin D. If we avoid all this good nutrition and throw it away and go to sugars and carbohydrates, and then if we go into the sun, we will get sunburn, and we can get even skin cancers. Okay? So
Mm.
it's not like just go into the sun and get skin cancer. No, that is not the. I think there is a lot more
Mm.
to that understanding. Uh,
Mm. Mm.
Proper nutrition is very important. Everything boils down to proper nutrition, doesn't it?
Okay. Yeah. 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 That's absolutely true. So, as a last question, on a plate of say on a food platter, what would you suggest, especially keeping in mind the Indian way of eating? I know in US and in other parts of the world we have different kinds of eating, and you can actually pick and choose what vitamin you want to eat, what kind of carbohydrate you want to avoid, and etc. etc. But for the Indian system, Indian way of eating food, it's really very difficult to pick and choose from our diet. So in a given day, or in a given week, what would you suggest? How do we actually get on to the proper nutrition because regularly we just eat rice, we just eat chapati, we just eat dal, and etc. etc. So your suggestions, please, on that.
Okay. So my suggestion would be this. I think we need to eat food in a manner that does not trigger insulin reaction. Means so insulin release.
Hmm.
Okay. So that means we have to cut down on our carbohydrates. Okay.
Okay.
Even the carbohydrates that we eat, they need to be definitely tempered with proper amount of fats so that we do not get this massive insulin response. And most of the people in India, about every other person definitely is a diabetic, if not more than that. Okay, diabetes incidence has gone through the roof in the recent times. Okay, it is the insulin resistance is the biggest problem in India because we consume a lot of carbohydrates, and also we consume a lot of chemicals that are coming from the agricultural products, which cause metabolic dysfunction.
Hmm.
Okay, so if we avoid, see, thing is insulin and fasting insulin levels need to be checked. Not only fasting sugars, fasting insulin levels need to be checked. And if the insulin levels are higher, like 30, 40 micrograms, I think that needs to be addressed. It needs to be less than 3 micrograms. So if it is it's a the maintaining health is a very no, I forgot the units, but thing is that it needs to be less than 3, and most of us are very well beyond that. So if we reduce the carbohydrates, and also when I say reduce the carbohydrates, but cut down the rice by at least 70%, and make every kernel of rice wet with ghee. I think that would be the way to go. And you test it for yourself. You just eat rice like you would normally eat, and you do it the way that I'm suggesting, and you test your blood sugar levels after 1 hour, postprandial sugar levels,
So,
and
so
you
you're
will know.
suggesting, so you're suggesting to pour the ghee on top of the rice,
Absolutely, absolutely. That is
and
that is
and,
the
and
way
you're
I,
suggesting to cut down 70% of the rice.
yes, that
So,
is how I do it. That is
hmm,
how I do it.
so on a given day, a cup of rice is enough, is what you're saying.
About a cup and a half. You know what? If you feel the need to eat a little more, do it. But the thing is, when you introduce proper amount of fats into your diet, like ghee into your diet, you will know your body will you will have the discernment uh,
Hmm.
to where it is sufficient. If you keep on eating rice like that, the problem is that is a perennial. It's a death spiral. Okay, you
Hmm.
want,
Hmm.
if you eat more, you want to eat more.
Hmm.
That is the paradigm that it's pushing us into. And if we incorporate ghee into this, that will bring down the not only the sugar levels but fasting insulin levels. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, yeah, that has been a really wonderful information, Dr. Bhanugaru. And one last question before we say abdu to this program. Uh, the motivation that I observed in you is for the kingdom of God, and you want to help people to be healthy, and you want to see all of us understand that our bodies are the temple of God, and we need to take care of these bodies without you know without any pandemic or bacterial or viral infections in us. We just need to be very healthy. And you have been suggesting D3 and zinc and other nutrition. So, so just on a final note, um, with this heart to heal people, to help people to stand, to be healthy, and to be able to help others as well. Would this Can we as laymen suggest people about these vitamins, or or we cannot do it based on the WHO regulations or the Indian Medical Council regulations? Is it okay to suggest people, or we have to direct them to a doctor, or while we direct them to doctor with the clear directions from the doctor, we can use this? How do you suggest it? Because I don't want our audience to just watch this program and go out and do stuff which are not permitted by the law of the land.
Okay. So I do not know here in the US, the vitamin D is a nutritional supplement, and anybody can go and purchase up to, not only 5, 10, 20,000 or 50,000 units in a pill. That is over the counter, that is available. And also, as a medical professional, as a pharmacist, I can suggest using these nutritional supplements. And also in India, I think these vitamins are available without a prescription from Amazon. Also,
Yes.
and
Yes, they are.
up to 5,000, or even I don't know. I have even seen 10,000 units of vitamin D3 as well. So, and also, if we are looking at clinicians who do not have proper understanding of vitamin D, a life-saving supplement, mind you, it's not a drug, okay, a
Mm.
life-saving supplement. I think it is our lives that we are dealing with. It is our livelihoods that we are dealing with. It
Mm.
is people are, there is a situation where in India, people are selling their assets, and people have spending their life savings in order to, in the hopes of saving their lives, and they're doing it so unsuccessfully. They're
Mm.
exhausting their life savings, and they're losing their lives as well. I think that situation is very pathetic, and that is the reason why we need to know. You know what? Yes, absolutely, we need to ask the doctors. There is no question about that, because there is so much that we do not know about ourselves. Okay,
Mm.
and there is so much that only a medical professional can do. I think
Mm.
we need. We should not even suggest. There is not even an inkling that that people should not go to the doctors. They must.
Mm.
They
Mm.
must, because
Mm.
with COVID illness, there are so many aspects that can only be managed by doctors. But
Mm.
one thing is for sure, but there is a lot of misinformation about this life-saving nutrient. In that, you need to know how this disease is working, and how your body is working, and how this certain nutrient is working. So that,
Mm.
armed with that knowledge, approach your clinician, approach your doctor, and present
Mm.
all this information, what you're hearing, present it to them, so they may also learn. And I have talked to several doctors in Hyderabad hospitals, and now most of them are open in these hospitals to trying vitamin D, and in fact they are using it. And I
Mm.
received a call from some senior doctors in one hospital, and they're saying, "Sir, we are using your protocol on all our patients, and everybody is recovering." So that is the
Mm.
testimony that I got from them. So let's educate, people armed with this knowledge. You know a lot more information about
Mm.
vitamin D and COVID now than at the start of the program. Use this information and
Mm.
talk to your clinician, talk to your doctor, and educate them.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Bhanu Garu, for sparing some time. It's very early in the morning for you, and in spite of that, you could spare some time to the audience of Lakshana Television. And I hope this information will be very useful to all of our audience. And please share this information to those who are suffering from COVID, or if they're worried about their dear ones infected. So I'm sorry. Let's pray, and let's bring all of those who are suffering at this point of time to the feet of the Lord, and pray that this information might be helpful to them. Let's bow our heads, pray, and conclude this program. Father, we give you thanks, O Lord, for this program. The information that has been shared, oh Lord, I pray that you will enable us to reach out to thousands and thousands of our audiences, oh Lord. May this information help us to be healthy, to be able to fight back, Lord, with the COVID pandemic, and be healthy, Lord, and also, Lord, be able to help the world, and this is exactly what you have asked us to do, O Lord, to spread the hope, to spread your kingdom through hope. Jesus, we thank you for everything that you have given us. Thank you for Dr. Bhanu Garu, and the way you have helped him, Lord, to help a lot of people, suggesting vitamin D3 and very nutritious food along with vitamin D3 to be able to, Lord, fight COVID-19. Help all of us, oh Lord, to come back once again into with yet another program to help your kingdom enhance, Lord, in this area. In Jesus' name I pray. Thank you. So,
Amen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhanu Garu. And let's meet on another program. And thank you so much for watching Rakshana TV.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you, sir.